Great. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session this afternoon, 16th April. Uh, I'd like to welcome the board of directors, our regional chairman, and members today participating in the workshop on MSME challenges, opportunities, growth. Before we move on, just a few, as you know, IAAPI has been conducting lots and lots of webinars in these last uh, 12 months, trying to help us all witness and go through these challenging times. And we've carefully, therefore, uh, made certain guidelines which we request you all to kindly follow. Kindly keep your microphone and video switched off for the convenience of all. And if you could kindly rename your joining as per this format, which is your first name, last name, and the company name. We will have a Q&A at the end of this. So please feel free to drop your queries in the chat box. And I will try and pick them up depending on the time available with us. Just a snapshot of all the seminars we've had. There've been a fair number across the entire value system of amusement parks over these last few months, from spirituality to conflict management to creativity to posh to technical. Um, and the last one we had was on the giving your profits a boost in these challenging times. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, today's session is on MSME challenges, opportunities, and growth. At the outset, we hope you all are taking all the precautions and staying safe. These are crazy times. Our industry is witnessing its most challenging time in our living memory. In this backdrop, here is a session that can help us mitigate our problems, albeit humbly, but yes, to some extent. The MSME sector, ladies and gentlemen, is considered as the backbone of the Indian economy and has contributed substantially in the socio-economic development of our nation. MSME stands for micro, small, and medium enterprises and was introduced by the Government of India in line with the MSME Development Act 2006. To scale up the growing service sector in India, the government has enabled MSME registration for all service entities as well, in addition to manufacturing entities. Uh, Individuals and entities engaged in delivery of services can also now register as an MSME and opt for the many additional benefits introduced by the government. The MSME ministry is led by Shri Nitin Gadkari, who incidentally addressed IAAPI last week. Under his dynamic leadership, Government of India has announced several very useful facilities and benefits for all in the MSME sector, which is both a big support and a boost to the sector. The key reason for organizing today's session is to highlight these very benefits, these features, these facilities, so that all of us in the amusement industry can benefit from the same. In fact, I believe most of our members, probably all our members, are MSMEs, and therefore this webinar can be very relevant to all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce our speaker for the day. Our speaker for the day is Mr. Atul Kumar Labh. Welcome, sir. Welcome to this IAAPI and welcome to this session. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Labh is a very distinguished and learned guest we have as our speaker today. An honors graduate in commerce from Calcutta's leading college, St. Xavier's College. and he then completed his postgraduate in commerce from the University of Calcutta. He also holds an MBA degree. Mr. Labh is a fellow member in the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. He is an associate member in the Institute of Cost Accountants of India and an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investments UK. He also possesses a diploma in management from IGNOU and a postgraduate honors diploma in system management from NIIT Calcutta. In addition to all of this, he also holds a diploma in human resource development and a diploma in industrial relations and personnel management from Chennai. Very, very distinguished, sir. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. We are all eager to learn from you about the various facilities and benefits that MSMEs can gain uh, from the various announcements of the government. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, if you have any queries, I request you to type those on the chat box. So at the end of this session, we can respond to the same. The format of the session is where Mr. Labh has made a presentation for us today, and this presentation will take approximately 1 hour, and then for 15 to 20 minutes we will have a Q&A with him. Thank you very much all once again for finding time in these challenging and uncertain moments to be part of this. And now I hand over to Mr. Labh to take on the session from here. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Goenka, for such a wonderful introduction. Highly obliged. Namaskar and very good afternoon to all of you. Dear friends, in last few days, we have celebrated New Year in different parts of our country by different names. Just yesterday, we celebrated Bengali New Year. I took this occasion to convey my good wishes to all of you for these occasions. I also pray to the Almighty that whatever pandemic legacy we have carried forward from 2020, I hope that it will not prolong too long in this year. I pray for the safety and wellness of all of you, your relatives, friends, and associates. Dear friends, knowledge is raw, whereas the experience is rich. But the richness of experience needs to be sharpened by the knowledge. And knowledge needs updation. And I think this type of webinars really provide us an opportunity to update our knowledge and experience. And in this context, I sincerely express my thanks to Indian Association of Amusement Parks and Industries, IAAPI, for providing me the opportunity to interact with all of you. Before I move, I would like to get it confirmed that whether this slide is visible to all of you, and I am clearly audible to all of you, I hope.
Visible and audible, sir.
Thank you very much. The topic which has been assigned to me is the MSME. As Mr. Goenka rightly said, the backbone of our Indian economy. If you open any newspaper, if you go to any government portal, if you read any commercial newspapers or media, print, electric media, print media, whatever, you will find that MSME is the hot cake nowadays. Everyone talks about MSME. So what exactly all about? Earlier, the fascination was to go for big industries, set up big industries and talk about bigger things. But now in last few years, the scenario has been changed. We are talking more about micro, small and medium enterprises, rather doing the business at the lower level, at the genuine level, and obviously creating the business environment for all. I'm receiving the request to allow few members. May I request the moderator to just to handle this aspect at their end?
Sudarshan.
Yes, sir.
Sir is having a request. Sir, आप repeat करें.
Yeah, इस end पे request आ रही है to allow to share the slides with few of the members. I don't know whether this slide is visible to all
So
or
we
not.
can only see the opening slide, which has your name and your address and your phone numbers. It does. We are not seeing anything beyond that.
No, I have not moved forward, but I'm just receiving the request that message flashing that it is not visible.
Okay. Well, I can see it, and maybe somebody else can also confirm. Anil, can you confirm? Can you see it? Ajay ji, can you confirm? Can you see it?
Yes, I can see.
Yes, we can see that. But we can see only the name and the details, phone numbers.
Right. That is the slide he's beaming right now. Sir, you can move on. Thank you.
Okay. Dear friends, today's MSME's journey, we will cover the following topics. Like first of all, start with basics, a little bit about the MSME basics. Since I'm a legal person, so obviously my presentation will be a little bit inclined towards the legal aspect of the MSME. And thereafter, we will move to growth and opportunities, the MSME which offers. Growth and opportunities are simultaneous with each other. If there is a growth, obviously the opportunities will be there, and opportunities are only provided if the growth is there. Then we will move to the benefits of MSME. After that, we will discuss about few certain schemes which are available for MSMEs. Then we will move to the compliances, being an MSME entity, what compliances you are supposed to do, and the challenges which an MSME is faced nowadays. Even though we talked a lot about MSME, but there are certain challenges prevailing in our economy which need to be addressed. And being an MSME entity, we have to keep in mind those factors. So let's start the journey. Before I move forward, I would like to start with the disclaimers that today is the weekend and this is the post-lunch session. So if any of you feel sleep, I should not be held responsible. Rather, this is the fault of the timing and all. So let's start with this MSME, today's journey. Basics, MSME basics, a little bit. The MSME falls under Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Government of India. You can go to msme.gov.in, the website. It's called Suchma Laghu or Madhyam Mantralaya. It is headed by Honorable MSME Minister, Mr. Nitin Gadkari. Basically, MSME is governed by a simple and a very small act that is called the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Act 2006. This is a central act, but the state governments have been empowered to frame the rules and regulations to monitor their MSMEs. And you will find that the growth and the development of MSME sector depends upon the state government policies also. And different state governments, according to their criteria and according to their rules and regulations, they frame different type of, they either provide different type of facilities to their MSME to grow in their state. But overall, it is governed by Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Act as far as the criteria, following the rules and getting the banking facilities at the central level is concerned. As the name itself suggests, we will always talk about MSME in short, and as it says that it comprises of micro, small, and medium. And as the size has been shown, the size of micro in this MSME will be smaller than to of small, and medium will be a little bit larger in size in this MSME setup. We have to be very careful whenever we read any scheme or any guidelines of the government or the amenities provided by the bank. Even though it talks about MSME, but you might find that there might be certain schemes or certain benefits which may not be available to medium enterprises. So over there, you will find the term only MS under MSME. It means that it is available only to micro and small. If you find MSME, then it means it is available to all three entities. Otherwise, whatever the scheme says, you will have to follow that model. So when we talk about MSME, micro, small, and medium enterprises, if you want to put yourself under MSME, either as a micro or small or medium enterprise, you have to make sure that you are falling either in the manufacturing sector or in the service sector. Only these two sectors at present are allowed to get themselves registered under MSME Act and to get themselves categorized as either micro, small, or medium enterprises. If the business does not fall under any of these sectors, manufacturing or service sector, then you are not entitled for MSME Act's benefit and you cannot get yourself registered either as micro, small, or medium enterprises. There was a circular in 2017 where government specifically mentioned that the following activities falling under different NIC code, these activities does not fall under MSME, even though the nature of business somehow, somewhere, it got related either as a service or manufacturing industry, but these activities cannot be treated as MSME, eligible for MSME enterprises. Forestry and logging, fishing and aquaculture. The next one is very important. That is wholesale and retail trade. So it means that trading activity is not allowed under MSME. So if any company is engaged only as a trader, engaged in trading activities, then you cannot be treated as MSME. Similarly, wholesale trade except of motor vehicles and motorcycles, retail trade except of motor vehicles and motorcycles, activities of households as employees for domestic personnel, and undifferentiated goods and services producing activity of private households for own use, activities of statutory organization and bodies. So if your business, nature of business falls under any of these head, then you are not eligible for getting yourself treated as MSME. If we talk about amusement parks, then I can say that amusement parks fall in the service sector as it is a part of the tourism industry. And nowadays, holidaying, leisure, and recreation-related tourism constitutes major part of the domestic tourism and are always an attraction point, especially among the children and young generation. Whenever we visit any tourist places or even in the town where we reside, whenever we thought about the tourist spots or the hotspots of the city, then obviously these things comes into mind that let's go to a big park or amusement park where we can have the weekend or where we can enjoy our holidays. So obviously it falls under the service sector because the nature of the business is to provide service to the society and to the economy. Continuing with the basics of this MSME, as far as the registration process is concerned, government has changed the guideline in totality with effect from 1st July 2020. Back to 1st July 2020, in manufacturing sector, the factor was to determine whether you fall under micro, small, or medium enterprises. The criteria was investment in plant and machinery, and it does not exceed 25 lakh rupees. In case of a small enterprises, more than 25 lakh rupees, but does not exceed 5 crore rupees. And in case of medium enterprises, more than 5 crore rupees, but does not exceed 10 crore rupees. That was the criteria for manufacturing sector, if eligible manufacturing sector, to be treated as MSME. And if you fall in the service sector, then prior to 1st July 2020, the criteria was that 10 lakh rupees for small enterprises between 10 to 2 crore rupees, and for medium enterprises from 2 crore to 5 crore rupees. That was the criteria prior to 1st July 2020. It is not relevant for the time being now. With effect from 1st July 2020, the government has changed the criteria. And now there are two things, because there was a demand that in investment in plant and machinery and all these things should not be a criteria for getting yourself treated as micro, small, or medium enterprises, because it depends upon the turnover and the business of the company, that how the company or how the entity is performing. Considering the demand, the government has changed the guideline with effect from 1st July 2020. And now, with effect from 1st July 2020, the criteria for micro, small, and medium enterprises are: if your investment in plant and machinery is less than 1 crore, and the turnover is less than 5 crore, then it will be treated as micro enterprises. But over there, you will find in between that it's an and. It means you will have to fulfill both the criteria. So if you are fulfilling both the criteria, that in terms of investment in plant and machinery and turnover, if it's less than 1 and 5, then only you can be treated as a micro enterprise. Similarly, if it's more than 1 crore but lesser than 10 crore, and in case of turnover, if it's more than 5 crore and lesser than 50 crore, then your entity will be treated as small enterprises. And if it's lesser than 50 crore, and if the turnover is 250 crore, then it will be treated as medium enterprises. By changing the definition of this turnover criteria, by introducing this concept, it has been observed, if we talk about the number of companies in our country, there are 13 lakh companies registered with the government of India. Out of the 13 lakh companies, 4.5 lakh companies has been struck off, which has been declared by the government as defunct companies. So out of 8.5 lakh companies which are registered with Ministry of Corporate Affairs, it has been observed that if almost 75% companies will fall under MSME. So with this change of definition, the government has tried to cover almost a large section of the economy and the business enterprises and the entire gamut of business fraternity under this MSME. So you can understand the importance of this MSME sector by this change in definition itself. Now we will move to, after the basics, now we will move to MSME growth and opportunities. That what growth and opportunities it has. Friends, the MSME sector of India is a significant driving component for the development of Indian economy. These micro, small, and medium enterprises help in lowering the unequal income dissemination among the individuals by the method of providing more employment opportunities and in industrialization of these areas. The MSME sector consists of more than 5.11 CR companies employing more than 11.7 CR people during the period 15-16. The data is based on the RBI report of 2017. So you can imagine that how much employment in the sector really generates and how many companies and the entities which are involved and in the MSME setup. If we consider share of this MSME in our economy, in all India GDP, based on CSO, this Statistical Office data source from 14-15 to 15-16, then till 18-19, the MSME growth, you can see that it is going up, and it's almost 13% every year. And if we see this, and if you see the share of MSME in all India GDP in terms, then you will find that it is approximately 30%. It contributes from 14-15 till 18-19. The contribution of this MSME sector is almost flat. Almost 30% of the whole GDP is controlled by the MSME sector. If we talk about the country's total manufacturing GVO, we talk because manufacturing is the, till few years back, manufacturing was the backbone of our whole Indian economy. And if we talk in terms of gross value output during the period 2014 to 19, then you will find that 33% is contributed by MSME only, whereas 67% was contributed by non-MSME sector. This is just the growth story. If we just have an estimate on the data provided by Statistical Office in manufacturing sector, particularly whenever we say that MSME means something which belongs to the rural areas or the very in B cities or B or C type of cities where they used to work in a lower scale, then you will be quite surprised to see the data. If you talk about the manufacturing, then you will find that there are approximately 114.14 lakhs in rural areas, but the urban is not very far behind. It is 82.50, and the total is 196.65, and the contribution is 31%. Electricity, the government has started capitalizing on this electricity, treating electricity, non-captive electricity generation and transmission as a separate line of service, not clubbing in the other services. But if you go to the other services, you'll find that in MSME, 69% of the contribution belongs from this service sector. Service sector contributes to almost 69% of the success of this MSME enterprises. And in the service sector, urban areas leads to the rural areas, and that is always quite obvious also. Even the services provided by the advocates and the chartered accountants and the consultants or whatever the different type of professionals fall under this category. So the thing is that as if you see the distribution, MSME is popular in rural areas also and in the urban areas also. Now you cannot say that MSME means something where the business are operated at lower level and it is for the rural areas. In terms of spread, as we saw in the last slide, the urban 49% and rural 51%. So it is an equilibrium now. Rural areas and the urban areas, they contribute equally towards the success of MSME sector. In terms of ownership ratio also, if we see in terms of sex ownership ratio, male dominates no doubt 79.63%, but in last 5 to 6 years, female entrepreneurs have come up like anything, and their contribution, their ownership is approximately now 21%. So out of 100% of MSME enterprises, 21% is owned by the female members nowadays. MSME, the main pivot role of this MSME is to generate the employment. And if you go to the sector-wise employment generation chart, you will find that service sector generates almost 68% of the employment in MSME sector, and the manufacturing 32%, and electricity is obviously 0.07%. One thing which I'd like to tell whenever we go through the slides and all, one thing which we have to keep in mind, that this percentage and the rest of the facts and figures might differ. Because the reason is, if you pick up any research paper, they consider MSME, unregistered MSMEs also as a part of the MSMEs. But if you go to the government sites and if you pick up the data from the government sources, government simply consider those MSMEs which have been duly registered, even though they fulfill the criteria of getting themselves being treated as micro, small, or medium enterprises. But if they are not registered, government does not include those business into their own data. So these data might differ. But on average, you will find that since now most of the enterprises prefer to get themselves registered as MSME, the chances of variation is very less and very narrow nowadays. Again, as I said, that service sector contributes to most of the MSME development of 62% compared to manufacturing of 38%. If in MSME itself, MSME comprises, as we all know, that it comprises of micro, small, and medium enterprises. In MSME itself, whatever the MSME size today is, 93% of the entities fall under micro level. It means they are registered as a micro entity, and 6% has been registered as a small entity, and only 1% has been registered as a medium enterprise. So under MSME itself, you will find that almost more than 90% businesses operates under micro level, at whether they are registered as micro entity. It means their turnover, the investment in plant and machinery is lesser than whatever the stipulated criteria are. The beauty of this MSME is that it promotes business at the lower level, and it encourages the entrepreneurship amongst the individuals. And it is the focus of the government that don't search for the government jobs. You be a job creator, and to be a job creator, you will have to provide the business opportunities to all. And once you start the business opportunity, once you start your own business, you will have to start at the micro level, and that is why you will find that the number of micro entities have been flourished in the last 5 to 6 years, thanks to the government, various type of central government schemes and state schemes also. If we talk about MSME growth and opportunities, in nutshell, it is the second largest employer sector after agriculture. In our country, agriculture is the topmost sector which provides the employment. But after that, it is the second largest employer sector after agriculture. and it accounts for almost 45% of total industrial production nowadays. It is just a rough estimate if we consider if we club that is, this information is based on the ICSI research paper, which was published in 2017, where the unregistered MSMEs were also included. And if we club the unregistered MSMEs, then it was found that it was published that almost 45% of total industrial production is coming from MSME sector only. And the 40% of total exports of India is coming from MSME sector. Similarly, manufacturing segment within the MSME contributes to 7.09% of GDP. And MSMEs also contribute almost 30.5% of the total service industry of our country. And the total contribution of MSME to the whole GDP is 37.54%, almost 1/3 of our total economy. Now let's talk a little bit about the tourism industry. If we talk about the tourism industry, you will find that almost 80% of the entities in different forms, whether as a proprietorship firm or as a partnership firm or as a company, 80% of are duly registered as MSME. And the contribution from non-MSME entities is only 20%. There was a research published in 2014 by IBF where it was topic was MSME tourism wave, where it was anticipated that tourism sector size in 1,000 INR CR Indian rupees crore in 2014 it was 537, whereas it is expected that it will reach up to a level of 760, even though thereafter they have not published the research, maybe due to Corona or something like that. Growth was anticipated at 6%, and at that time it was expected that the employment generation is in terms of 40 millions. And the research paper also highlighted certain areas for the tourism that where in which areas MSME can flourish in tourism industry, like equipment, supplies and services, e-commerce platforms, and budget hotels and customer services. In 2021-22 budget outlay, the government of India has provided a lot of support to the MSME sector. The budget allocation for financial year 21-22 for the MSME is more than doubled. It is now 15,700 crore, vis-a-vis rupees 7,572 crore in 2021. So it is almost doubled. And rupees 10,000 crore corpus for provision of guarantee for borrowings, a huge relief to this sector, because guarantee is a big issue and collateral is a big issue for the MSME sector. So government in its budget has tried to make the provision to resolve those issues. Even in post-COVID scenario, during the post-COVID scenario, there was a 20,000 crore subordinate debt for MSMEs, which was announced by the Honorable Finance Minister of India. And rupees 3 lakh crores collateral-free automatic loans for business, including MSMEs. The government also announced, and it is still continuing. If you go to the government GEM portal, you will find that all the global tenders for procurement up to rupees 200 crore, that has been totally earmarked for the MSMEs only. So it means if the tender value is up to 200 crore, no other entity apart from MSME can participate at GEM portal for the government tenders. And it is a huge business opportunity for the MSME sector. And due to this, it has been found that of the total number of vendors registered on government e-marketplace, that is called GEM, 26% are MSMEs only. And it is just a support which was given by the government by giving the exclusivity right for the MSMEs, and MSMEs has grabbed it like anything. It also found that according to the GEM portal, as on 11th January 2021, the total MSMEs on boarded and their order value are given below. Number of MSMEs, sellers and service providers. You just mind the words over here. They have not used the word MSMEs. So medium enterprises have been excluded. So only micro and small enterprises are eligible. So in case of micro and small enterprises, it has been found that 407,937 entities are associated with government GEM portal, participating in the tenders and supplying the goods to the government. And the order value in terms of percentages of approximately 58%. So just to imagine the contribution which MSME is given to the government sector and to the overall economy, and the support which the government is providing to the MSME. And in turn, it is expected, obviously it is expected that in respect of whatever sector you belong, either manufacturing or service, whether in hospitality, amusement, or in other sector also, if you are under MSME, then you are bound to grow if you do the business properly. I just said that the development and growth of MSME depends upon the state government policies also. It is nothing like that. Simply the central government provide the helping hand to these MSMEs. If we talk about top 5 states in our country, as far as growth of MSMEs are concerned, you will find that UP obviously in terms of population and all ranked the chart at number 1, contributing to 14%. It means 14% of total out of total MSMEs, 14% is in state of Uttar Pradesh itself. The next is West Bengal, which also constitutes almost 14%, and Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, and Karnataka falls third, fourth, and fifth place. So if you club these 5 states, you'll find that 50% of the total MSMEs are scattered in these 5 states only, and the rest 50% MSMEs are spread throughout the country in other states. So the growth depends obviously on the population size also, but it also depends upon the policies of the state government and the support which the state governments provide to these MSMEs and their outlook towards the MSMEs, that how they treat their MSMEs. Now we will go to MSME benefits, the benefits which MSME generates. As I said that if growth was there, then obviously opportunities comes, and opportunity comes only if there is a growth, and for that you need support. When we see that there is a growth, there is an opportunity, then obviously the question comes into our mind that what are the benefits we will get if we go to the MSME sector. Even if you fall under MSME definition and if you are not registered, think about the registration. But the first question comes at what benefits we will daily get, whether it will be an extra burden for us that we have registered ourselves now, extra compliances, and we have to do a lot of other formalities. And nowadays the government compliances are increasing day by day. So it should not be a burden compared to the benefits which we gather from the MSME. So let's go to the MSME benefits. Priority lending. Priority lending means obviously MSME get the priority from the banks, from the governments, from the cooperative banks. And obviously Reserve Bank also has instructed the banks to give the priority to the MSME loan applications. So banks, by virtue of the directions issued by the RBI, have certain earmarked funds that have to mandatorily be given to MSME businesses. Producing MSME certificate benefits to entitled one to avail this loan on a priority basis with fewer assets. So it is an internal instruction from the RBI by circular also to the banks that if they receive the application from MSME and they also earmark certain funds for the MSMEs, that the MSME sector should get priority as far as disbursement of loan is concerned. Collateral-free loan from the banks. And this is a big boost to the MSME sector. Both old as well as the new MSME enterprises can claim the benefits. A trust named the Credit Guarantee Trust Fund scheme was introduced by the Government of India, SIDBI, and the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises to make sure this scheme is implemented, Credit Guarantee scheme for the micro, small enterprises. So if you are a startup, if you are a new entrepreneur, if you want to set up your own business, then obviously the question comes that if I go to the bank, that whatever the collateral and whatever the guarantee and all. So the government has tried to resolve that issue, to solve that issue. Government has given the sanction to issue collateral-free loans to MSMEs. Overdraft interest rate exemption. Government has also given the liberty to MSME that MSME registered businesses or enterprises can avail a benefit of 1% on the OD as mentioned in the scheme. But it differs from bank to bank, even though it is a benchmark, but it differs from bank to bank. It means in case if you have to go for overdraft facility over and above the credit limits or the limits of financial limits which you enjoy from the bank, obviously there will be relaxation of the interest rate over there. Electricity bills. To promote new entrepreneurship, and because electricity bills for the new entrepreneur is a cost of infrastructure, it is an infrastructure cost at the beginning. So this concession is available to all the enterprises that have the MSME registration certificate by providing an application to the Department of the Electricity along with the certificate of registration by MSME. But it is not as simple as whatever I have stated. It depends upon the state government policies, and if the electricity provider is a private company, so you have to talk with the private companies about all these facilities and which you can enjoy from as per their plan. Subsidy on patent registration, because if you are starting your own business as an entrepreneur, as an MSME, you need a support in terms of the patent registration, because you want your product to be registered so that it should not be misused. Then government has given 50% subsidy to the registered MSMEs. So whatever your cost is, 50% subsidized rate you will get. In case of ISO certification charge reimbursement also, the registered MSME enterprises can claim the reimbursement of the expenses that were spent for the ISO certification, but there is a limit that maximum 75% or 75,000 rupees. That is the maximum limit which you can get. So for the MSME as a starting point, if you go for patent, if you go for ISO certification, you will get all these type of benefits. Delayed payments. You must have heard about the liquidity crunchiness in the MSME sector. That liquidity problem is very much in the MSME sector because the size of the MSME always remains very small. And obviously, whatever with the little fund you start your business, if you supply your goods, if you provide the service, and if you don't get the payment, then what about the next cycle? You are not going to survive. So just to keep the cycle moving, government has taken a lot of efforts and a lot of steps as far as clearance of payment is concerned. Now in the MSME Act, it has made the provision. The buyer delays the payment for more than 45 days after accepting the products or services, then the buyer has to pay compound interest along with the interest on the amount that was agreed to be paid. The interest rate is 3 times the rate that is notified by the RBI. So it means 3 times the rate of the RBI, the prevailing rate of RBI, the buyer has to pay the interest. So in any case, whatever the credit line or whatever the credit terms are, even if the credit term says that the payment will be done by after 90 days, that Act provides the support to the MSME entities that MSME entities can claim payment after 45 days with the interest. And it has tried to solve a little bit liquidity problem to the MSMEs. Not only this, as per section 23 of the MSME Act, interest paid or payable by buyer to the MSME supplier shall not be allowed as deduction under the provisions of Income Tax Act 1961. So it is just a forcing point to the business, to the buyers, that if you delay the payment to the MSMEs, and if the delay goes beyond 45 days, you will have to pay the interest rate 3 times of the RBI prevailing rate. And whatever interest you pay, you cannot claim IT benefit over there. So it means it will not be treated as an allowable expenditure in the eyes of Income Tax Act, and you will have to pay tax over there. So it is a double burden and double blow to the owners. So they have to be very cautious. If they purchase any goods or if they avail any services from the MSME, they should give the priority to their payment. Otherwise, they will have to pay the interest also, and for which they will not get the IT claim also. Similarly, all the states, union territories in India have constituted MSME Enterprise Facilitation Council for the settlement of disputes in relation to the delayed payments. Even after all these things, even the provision is there in the Act. Even after that, if you don't get the payment being an MSME entity, you can move to the council, that MSME council generally set up by the state governments and UTs, and you can get the matter resolved over there. This trades is an excellent example of the government's effort to try to reduce the liquidity problem of the MSMEs. It is a new concept, And it is just like a bill discounting platform provided to the MSMEs to, as far as their outstanding is concerned. As I said, that delay in getting payments is one of the primary problems faced by the MSMEs. To address this issue, the RBI has introduced the trade receivable discounting system in 2014. Trades is an electronic platform where receivables of MSMEs drawn against buyers, large corporate, public sector undertakings, and government departments are financed through multiple financiers at competitive rates. This is done through an auction-based mechanism. There are three entities at present which have been duly recognized by RBI, that is RHIL, A.Trades, and Mind Solutions, licensed by the Reserve Bank, and they are the operating platform for more than 2 years. Basically, the concept of trades works like this: that, for example, if you, being a MSME supplier, has supplied certain goods to a big company, and that company, by virtue of law, is bound to take the services of trades. And for example, if the company has taken the connectivity from RHIL, so if you want, you can discount your bill over there. For example, if you have supplied any goods to any company, the value is 10 lakh rupees. And the credit period, obviously, by law is 45 days, maybe lesser than that or maybe more than that, whatever the period is. If you want, you can discount your bill over there. So for against 10 lakh rupees, it can be discounted, and it works like just like stock exchange mechanism, where the rates can be negotiated. Some buyer might offer you 9 lakh rupees against the bill. Some buyer might offer you 9.5 lakh against your bill. You just discount your bill, get the payment, and on the due date, the buyer will furnish the bill to the company, and the company is bound to make the payment. The whole idea is that let the MSME release from the whole system and let the payment get easily transferred to the MSME without even waiting for the 45 days. Just to make sure that the system works perfectly, it is mandated by the Government of India that all companies registered under the Companies Act 2013 with a turnover of more than rupees 500 crore, as per the last available audited balance sheet, and all central public sector enterprises, to get themselves registered on the trades platform to ensure cash liquidity for MSME suppliers. So if you are a supplier to any central public sector enterprise and you want the fund immediately, you can go to the trades platform, just discount your bill, get your money, and run your business. Tax benefits. Just in the last budget, the limit for tax audit has been enhanced from 5 crore rupees to 10 crore rupees. They were providing relief from compliance burden to a large section of MSMEs. As far as assessment is concerned, just to provide them peace of mind from the all income tax hassles and all. Reopening of IT assessment cannot be done up to a time frame of 3 years instead of the previous 6 years. So only in case of serious tax evasion cases above rupees 50 lakh, the case can be reopened up to 10 years. So tax of 50 lakh rupees and rest of the things, you can imagine that it will not be applicable to MSMEs, because if you are MSMEs operating at lower level, your tax burden will not be so high. So it means that indirectly the government is saying that if your business is almost genuine and if you are doing your business in a proper way, chances of IT assessment is almost nil. On the other hand, the government has started providing faceless dispute resolution committee for small taxpayers with a taxable income of up to rupees 50 lakh and any disputed income of rupees 10 lakh rupees. So it will be a faceless mechanism just to make the process hassle-free and to remove any sort of biasness from the whole system. The government has introduced this concept of being a small businessman falling under an MSME, whether in any sector, you can avail this tax benefits. MSMEs can take credit for minimum alternate tax, which is called MAT, to be carried forward for 15 years instead of 10 years. This is also a tax benefit as provided to the MSME, particularly mostly influential and applicable to the newly set up MSMEs. There are certain reporting benefits which are available to the MSMEs. Now, all companies are required to file a half-yearly return to Ministry of Corporate Affairs showing the payment outstanding for more than 45 days to micro, small, MSME suppliers or service providers. So it means that if you have supplied any goods to any company and if your bill is outstanding for more than 45 days, that company has to report to the government, giving the value and the name that this company owes this much amount to this MSME, and this is line outstanding for more than 45 days. And once the information goes to the government, government will take necessary action accordingly. Similarly, all companies are also required to furnish the payment outstanding to MSMEs with aging period. Now, in their balance sheet, whether you are a partnership firm or whether you are a company or whatever entity, if you are supposed to prepare your accounts, you will have to mention the outstanding payments to the MSMEs with the aging period. Now, after going through the benefits, we have seen that the MSMEs, there are a lot of growth and a lot of opportunities for the MSMEs. In last few slides, we have seen the benefits which are available to MSMEs also. So now the next question comes, that is there any specific schemes for MSMEs also? Because if the growth is there, opportunities are there, benefits are there, if these three things get clubbed with the schemes, then it gives a complete package to the MSME business development. So let's go to certain schemes which are specifically meant for the MSMEs. These are the government schemes, and specifically these are the central government schemes. For the state government schemes, there are numerous state government schemes provided by the state government from time to time, depending upon the scenario. But since MSMEs are mostly governed by the central laws and everything, so we will discuss about the central government schemes only. You can have these type of schemes. The detail of each and every scheme is very vast. There are a lot of conditions, lot of facilities, lot of amenities available to MSMEs. If the MSME fulfill the criteria, one thing in bottom line is there that the government has provided a hassle-free rules and regulations, everything in black and white, and there are less chances of ambiguity, of misinterpretation, or any sort of creation of biased environment. Everything is written in the black and white. Most of the things, most of the applications you are supposed to make online. So the chances of interaction with the government authorities are almost nil. Let's talk about few government schemes. So that Prime Minister Employment Generation Program and other credit support schemes. Under that category, there are Prime Minister Employment Generation Programs, Credit Guarantee Trust Fund for micro and small enterprises, interest subsidy eligible certificate. We will go to the schemes just by going with the names, just to see that there are different types of schemes. And then in last, we will discuss about few prime schemes also. Technology upgradation and quality certification schemes. There are numerous technology upgradation and quality certification schemes launched by the Government of India, which provides financial support to MSMEs in TED certification scheme. A scheme for promoting innovation in industry and entrepreneurship, ASPIRE, the popularly called. National Manufacturing Competitiveness Program, NMCP. Similarly, there are marketing promotion schemes, international cooperation, marketing assistance scheme, procurement and marketing support scheme. Particularly the first two, international cooperation and marketing assistance scheme, which I consider is very much useful as far as amusement park, hospitality, and tourism sector is concerned. So we'll discuss about these two schemes separately. Entrepreneurship and skill development program, entrepreneurship skill development programs. The skill development program is very much popular nowadays. In every department, you can have your skill development programs, and particularly if you talk about MSMEs, obviously it has been clubbed with the entrepreneurship also. Assistant to training institutions, ATI. Similarly, infrastructure development programs, there micro and small enterprises cluster development. A scheme of information, education, and communication. I have touched only 5 or 6 type of schemes, but there are almost 9 to 10 type of schemes which are available on the government site. If you go to a particular scheme, it will take a lot of time, and due to paucity of time, I have simply highlighted the schemes. But there are few schemes which I consider that will be beneficial to discuss over here. and which is very meaningful as far as our session is concerned. One is Credit Guarantee Trust Fund for Micro and Small Enterprises, which is CGT SMA. Ministry of MSME and Small Industries Development Bank of India, SIDBI, jointly established a trust named Credit Guarantee Fund Trust for MSME and small enterprises, popularly called CGT MSE, in order to implement credit guarantee scheme for micro and small enterprises. Just mind the words, only for micro and small enterprises, not for medium enterprises. The corpus of CGT MSE is contributed by Government of India and SIDBI. 75% of the loan amount to the bank is guaranteed by the trust fund. Collateral-free loan up to limit of rupees 100 lakh is available for individual MSE on payment of guarantee fee to bank by the MSME. And both existing and new enterprises are eligible under the scheme. It is a very wonderful scheme meant for the MSME and just to provide a credit line, guarantee-free loan to the MSMEs. I just said that one scheme which is very much popular rather, that is called Marketing Assistance Scheme. And it is beneficial across all the sectors of MSME, in nature of business of MSMEs, particularly if you are in amusement or hospitality or transport, this tourism sector. Assistance for the following activities. If you are for organizations of exhibitions abroad and participation in international exhibitions or trade fairs, co-sponsoring of exhibitions organized by other organizations, industry association and agencies, organizing buyer-seller meets, intensive campaigns, and marketing promotion activities. So these are the activities covered under the scheme. You get a limited budgetary approvals, means the limited budgetary support by the Government of India to carry out all these activities, just to promote your business. MSMEs, industry associations, and other organizations related to MSME sector are eligible to apply for this. But the thing is that as far as marketing assistance for doing the seminars and programs and all the things, government will publish a chart of the programs, fairs, and seminars. If you participate in those programs, seminars, and fair, then only you will get the budgetary support. It's nothing like that you will organize anything from your own and you can claim the expenditure or you get the budgetary support from the government. Another scheme which might be very useful for us, that is Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme. The Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme provides 100% guarantee coverage by National Credit Guarantee Trustee Company and CGTC to member lending institutions on guaranteed emergency credit line of up to 3 lakh crore to eligible MSMEs. This credit under GECL would be up to 20% of the borrower's total outstanding credit up to rupees 500 crore. But in case of this hospitality sector, travel and tourism sector, and leisure and sporting sector, that will be 40%, excluding all balance sheet and non-fund based exposures as on 29th February. Additional credit shall be maximum up to rupees 100 crore. So it means in case of hospitality sector and travel and tourism sector and leisure and sporting sector, it comes to 200 crore. This scheme has been extended for the fund-based loan sanctioned by 30th June 2021 and disbursement 30th September 2020. But in case of non-fund-based loan, first tranche is to be utilized by 30th September 2021. Similarly, there is an excellent scheme as far as international, which is called International Cooperation Scheme. If you are an MSME, then International Cooperation Scheme provides financial assistance on reimbursement basis for airfare, space rent, freight charges, advertisement and publicity charges, and entry registration fee on reimbursement basis in case of participation in international exhibitions and trade fairs. But the catch over here is again that you are not free to do any type of international fair or seminars, and you can claim. You will have to go by the list which is published by the Government of India, and then if you participate in those international seminars, if you are represented by your association or any MSME enterprises, then you can have the budgetary support from the Government of India. Friends, once you saw the growth and opportunities, then if you see the benefits which MSME has, so obviously, and if you go by the schemes, and if you think that it is a complete package offered by the government of India, which you can consider, then obviously the thing comes into the mind that what about the compliances? At present, I am not registered as MSME. If I register myself as MSME, then are we really burdened by the compliances? So let's go to a little bit about the compliances part of registered MSMEs. First of all, one thing which we have to keep in mind that any entity, whether you are doing your business individually in owning under Hindu Undivided Family HUF, or under as a proprietorship form, or as a partnership form, or as a limited liability partnership, any type of company registered under the Companies Act, whether as a private limited, public limited, whether you are listed or unlisted, whether you are a registered society or a trust, any type of entities you are working, all entities are eligible to get themselves registered as MSMEs. So it is not a supplement for a partnership form or something like that. An individual can also get himself or herself registered under MSME. Just to revise the chart once again, just to because we saw in the beginning, just to recap again, that if you register yourself as an MSME under the MSMD Act with effect from 1st July 2020, the criteria are once again given over here. And depending upon the business scenario, you can foresee that under which category you fall. Either you fall as a micro enterprises, or you fall as a small enterprises, or you fall under medium enterprises. Let's talk a little bit about the registration part. That if you want to register yourself as under the as MSME under the MSMD Act, then how it really works and what are the formalities you are supposed to do. On or after 1st July 2020, new entities are required to get themselves registered and to obtain Udyam registration certificate post allotment of Udyam registration number. So now the registration process is called Udyam registration. You will get an Udyam registration certificate, and the number that which it will carry will be called Udyam registration number. But prior to 1st July 2020, it was called Udyog Aadhaar number. So it was in existence, and those entities which were already registered and were having Udyog Aadhaar number up to 30th June 2020, they were allowed to migrate to the new system from Udyog Aadhaar to Udyam registration by 31st March 2021. At present, no document needed for registration. There is no registration fee by the government of India. Just go to the government site. There are numerous duplicate site or false sites which really charge something from you, but the government of India doesn't charge anything. It's totally free. What you simply need is the detail contained in your Aadhaar, PAN, man detail, an IC code, number of employees you are having, male, female employees, plant location, etc. All this information will be asked for. And it is an OTP based registration. So the moment you enter, and if you put your mobile number, an OTP will go to the mobile. Registration process is very simple. Even though the criteria are based on turnover and investment in plant and machinery, but they will never ask you about all these figures. Information related to investment in plant and machinery and equipments will be automatically fetched from the IT return as filed by the entities. So whatever IT return you have filed for 31st March, say 31st March 2020, and if you go for registration today, the detail will be fetched by the IT from the IT portal, and it will be automatically filled up. So it does not matter that what criteria you are in present. Whatever the return you have filed for the last year, the registration will be issued based on the last IT return. Similarly, information related to turnover will be automatically fetched from the GST return. Whatever GST return you file, the information will be captured from there, and the turnover criteria will be calculated based on your last GST return. Suppose if you don't have IT or GST return, then only self-declaration will be required. And in case of registration post 31st March, means if you talk about today's on 16th April, you must have a GST number and the PAN card, otherwise you cannot do register yourself as an MSME entity. The entire system will be based on Aadhaar and PAN. Everything is governed by your Aadhaar and PAN number. So only these two things you have to provide. The rest of the information, whatever is available at different type of government portals and websites, will be collected from there. No enterprise shall file more than one Udyam registration. However, any number of activities, including manufacturing or service, or both may be specified or added to in one Udyam registration. So for example, if you are having two type of businesses as a proprietorship firm, one is in manufacturing and one is in service. Even in manufacturing, if you are having two type of manufacturing activities, similarly in service also, there is no need to have the registration for each and every activity separately. Based on your Aadhaar and PAN, single Aadhaar, single PAN, so single registration will suffice, and that will be only done, and it will cover all your business activities comprising of different manufacturing or service activities. You are falling under micro, small, or medium, it will be automatically generated based on the information captured. So it is not up to for you to decide whether you will go for a small, medium, or micro enterprise. Whatever information you have given to the IT department and to the GST department, it will be determined based on that feeder, and the certificate and the category will be allotted in your registration certificate accordingly. Your category may move upward or backward automatically. For example, if you have filed if you have taken the registration based on 20 IT return, and if it is allotted as micro, and if your business has flourished, and you have switched over from micro to small, and you are fulfilling the criteria of small, the moment you file the IT return and GST return for 2021, it will be automatically calculated, and a new certificate will be issued to you automatically by the MSME department. You don't have to file any application for change of status from micro to small or small to medium or vice versa. Entities will be intimated in case of change of status, as I say. In case of an upward change, it means if you move from micro to small and small to medium, an enterprise will maintain its prevalent status till expiry of 1 year from the close of the year of registration. So it means the first registration, even if there is a change in status, your status will not be changed. In case of reverse graduation of an enterprise, it means suppose if you are registered as a medium enterprises, and now from medium you have gone to small or small to micro, the enterprise will continue in its present category till the closure of the financial year, and it will be given the benefit of the change status only with effect from 1st April of the financial year following the year in which change took place. So if in 2020 you were registered as small, and based on the return of 2021 you were categorized as micro, so your registration of small will be valid till the next finance up to 31st March of 2022. Continuing with the registration, all units with the GSTIN listed against the same permanent account number shall be collectively treated as one enterprise, and the turnover and investment figures for all such entities shall be seen together, and only the aggregate values will be considered for deciding the category as MS or medium enterprise. It means that suppose in a single PAN, if I am having a PAN, and if I am having 3 GST numbers of say different type of for different type of business. So for my Udyam Aadhaar against one PAN, all GST turnover will be clubbed and will be aggregated. The status of my PAN for Udyam Aadhaar will be the aggregate figure of my turnover comprises of various type of GST which I have had. In case of any problem related to migration from Udyog Aadhaar to this or under this new system, the district industry center DICs will act as single window facilitation system in their districts. So the government has provided a lot of supports to the micro, small, and medium enterprises as far as registration facilitation is concerned. Dear friends, whatever we have discussed so far, all rosy pictures, rose opportunities, benefits registration. We know that apart from registration, there is no other compliance as far as MSME is concerned. You are not supposed to file any balance sheet or return with MSME authorities. Whatever you do with IT or with the ROC, that is sufficient. As far as MSME compliance is concerned, only the registration with MSME, no further reporting to the MSME, unless if specifically asked under any particular scheme to do that. But the thing is not so simple as it looks, particularly if you talk about our economy, the country situation and all. There are numerous challenges which MSME faces, and we have to keep in mind those challenges also. When we saw the basics, we saw that, okay, fine, these are the basic parameters. When we go to the growth and opportunities, we saw it has grown like anything in last 5-6 years. There are plenty of opportunities in terms of various types of government schemes. There are different type of benefits which MSME enjoys. Whether you talk about tax benefits, rebate, banking facilities, loan, collateral, or whatever. But registration process is also simple. But there are certain challenges which we also have to keep in mind. If you go to the challenges, poor productivity from inefficient processes and unskilled workforce. Unskilled labor, skilled workforce is not the problem related to only this MSME sector. This is the problem faced by almost all the sectors, whether you are MSMEs or non-MSMEs. That is why there is a separate department created by the government for skill development. And getting a proper workforce, a skilled workforce, is very much vital for development of the MSME, particularly in the manufacturing sector. You must have heard zero defect and zero effect. So the thing is that if the productivity is poor, the quality is poor due to unskilled labor, your MSME cannot survive. So considering the size of the business and the amount which you are having, you have to ensure that your product is of world class, sustainable in market, and for that you need a skilled workforce. Another problem which the government has tried to solve very much, but even though it remains particularly in rural areas, that is the lack of access to working capital. We in urban areas do have accessibility to different source of finances, but it has been found that particularly in rural areas, that working capital problem is very much over there. People still fear to go to the bank, maybe of legal consequences or the paper formalities, but this is a real big problem. Another is lack of access to markets. If you are operating in a smaller scale, then obviously you cannot devote much towards your advertisement. You cannot spend more towards the marketing at all. So accessibility to market is a area which we have to consider, which the government also has to consider. Even though the GM is a good step, no doubt, the government procure it directly, but they just need to be addressed. Access regulatory compliances. As far as MSME is concerned, under the MSME Act, there is no compliance apart from the registration, and unless it is specifically asked on a particular scheme. But apart from that, being a company or being an entity, you have to do a lot of compliances under the Companies Act, under the Income Tax Act, and the GST Act. So the government must think about reducing the compliances burden from the MSME sector specifically. And lack of financial expertise, I said that they don't have exposure towards the finance, so they need the financial expertise also. That also leads to the financial solutions, lack of financial solutions. Whenever any MSME falls under any financial problem, they really lack financial solutions. Technology is a very, I'll say that technology really mars an MSME, because you cannot expect everyone to be online, to do every business online. So there's some sort of thing is there that technical support must be either simplified or they must be provided some sort of training. Low production capacity, obviously, because we are operating at a lower capacity level. Ineffective marketing strategy, because we don't have so much to spend as far as marketing is concerned. And constraints on modernization and expansion. So these are the challenges which we really face. But irrespective of all these things, there's one more thing, that lack of coordination among the various organizations. involved in the promotion of MSMEs, including organizations of the state governments and poor linkages with the industrial stakeholders in the private sector. There is also duplication of programs run by various ministries for the same target group. Even though there is a separate MSME ministry by the government of India, but if you go to the tourism site, if you go to any other site, you will find again there are certain things meant for MSMEs. So these are really creating a lot of hassles and duplicacy of work. And once you go to the different side, you find different type of schemes for MSMEs. It will be better that if all the schemes, irrespective of any department, is clubbed together and put under a single platform. But even though, irrespective of all these challenges, we can conclude by saying, considering the benefits and growth which we have seen, MSME plays a significant role in the social, economic, and political growth of the country. MSME sector not only generates the global value of the products and services, it creates various employment opportunities in the country too. MSMEs receive more governmental focus as their role in the economic and social growth is inclusive, employment oriented. MSMEs have the inherent characteristics of being innovative and quickly responsive to changing marketing conditions. And it is because of these qualities MSMEs contribute sustainably to any economy and are widely acknowledged as the engine of economic growth. Dear friends, with these concluding remarks, I must say that nowadays MSME is the backbone of our economy. If you are registered, try to grow, try to flourish. If you are not registered, get yourself registered and try to avail the benefits, whatever. And believe me, in coming years, these things are going to expand. So with this, I conclude my session. I express my sincere thanks and to all of you for tolerating me for almost 1 hour. Thank you very much.
Sir, on behalf of IAAPI and all our members and the participants on this call, a very big thank you for this very inspiring. You've touched upon all the details, all the advantages in such a simple manner that people like us can also understand the subject. And in fact, while you were speaking, I was just making notes of so many benefits, which as an MSME, I don't think even my company is taking advantage of. So it's been a very, very useful session, sir. Thank you very much. We have quite a few questions that have come up. Maybe you could stop sharing the screen, then it'll be easier for us to have a conversation. I'm going to first invite one of our founders and our past president, our past chairman, Mr. Rajan Shah, to kindly come in and ask a question. He already put it on the chat box. It's a very, very intriguing and thought-provoking question, sir. Rajan bhai, if you would like to please come in and ask that. Rajan bhai, are you there? So I don't know why he's not able to speak up, but the question he put on the chat box is a very interesting question. He asked in the chat box that corruption is a very big hurdle in supplying to the government. So has the government done anything about corruption? And I mean, especially like MSMEs suffer big time on this.
Well, I'll say that the government cannot solve this problem by giving anything in writing.
Yeah.
It is a gradual process. It will be eliminated in a phased-wise manner. We hope so. And I hope all of you will agree that in last 5-6 years, there is a change in policy. Earlier, a lot of things were not written. Unwritten things were more. But nowadays, things are well in writing, in black and white, so that at least 90% of things which we are required to do or which we are required to furnish, that we know well in advance. But obviously, since we all are human beings, we have to interact with the people. These things will be there, no doubt. But it will gradually, it is my apprehension, and obviously gradually it will eliminate. Let's hope so.
Sir, we have time for another 10, 11 minutes. So I'm going to invite a couple of other people as well. I'd like to now call upon Mr. Arijit Sengupta, again, a past chairman of IAAPI, with a lot of experience, has been the MD and CEO of Nico Parks for over a decade or two, maybe. Mr. Sengupta, would you like to ask a question, sir?
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity given to me, and good evening to everybody. I have just a couple of questions. I put it on the chat box also. Number one, I mean, after 1st July 2020, it is hardly any more months. I mean, could you see any sea change in the number of registrations that has gone into, and has it, substantial or big change made in the ratios between MSMEs and the large industries or industries per se? That is number one question. I think I'll ask both the questions, and both the questions after that you can answer. It is going through my mind all the time, any manufacturing unit for the IACs and amusement park industry. The manufacturing companies can definitely obtain a lot of loans, GECL loans and all that MSME is offering now. Banks are offering as per RBI rules and guidances. But in case of amusement parks or IACs per se, I mean, they don't need really working capital. Their main cash flow comes from the gate income, which is cash, even IACs also. Now, they don't have much of outstandings. Now, they definitely need term loan for any capex or anything. I mean, is there this thing on the capex, any MSME benefits are there so that they can avail of same?
Well, as far as the reply to the first question is concerned, since post 1st July 2020, even though no data are available from the government side, the government has not published anything, because there was a criteria of migration also, to migration from the old system to the new system. But obviously the number of registrations have gone up as in the service sector, and particularly those who were not thinking about MSME at all being in a service sector, because MSME was more popular amongst the manufacturing setup and all, because service sector was self-driven. Most of the service sector was individual driven, as I say, that it is driven by some professional or some entity doing business of himself or herself. So now the registrations have gone up in service sector, and the service sector has also started thinking about MSME registrations. So once the government data is released, we will find that the registration in service sectors has gone up like it. That it is the apprehension. This is number one. As far as second point is concerned, really there is no specific scheme meant for as far as capex is concerned, meant for your type of industry. Actually, MSME, whatever the government frame, the schemes the government frame, they don't keep any particular industry in mind unless it is asked for. What I'll suggest is specifically for amusement parks and this tourism and hospitality industry, just like if you see that there are certain associates of MSMEs, choir boards, or Khadi Vikas Nigam, something like that. If you do the business on that platform, on that scale, and if you get your association registered with MSME, just like choir boards or Khadi Vikas Nigam, something like that, then they can think about tourism, amusement parks, leisure activities, all these things. And they can frame the policies, they can frame the schemes specifically meant for your type of industry. Because if you go to the MSME site and if you go to the government schemes, they do have their associates and they frame the policies for Khadi development, Khadi Gramodyog. Then they frame the rules for choir developments. Similarly, they do have 7, 8 type of associates with them. So it will be better if you work on that line.
Okay. Or SIDBI or anybody coming up with that? Any MSME for the establishment of parks or for the capex? SIDBI is giving anything? But they are coming forward?
Are you listening to me or?
Yeah. SIDBI.
SIDBI.
Huh.
To my knowledge, I have not heard.
Okay.
I'm not aware of.
Thank you very much for that question, Mr. Sengupta, and thank you, Atul, for the answer. Rajan Bhai is back. So, Rajan Bhai, on your behalf, I asked the question, and of course, there is no answer to that brilliant question, though, which all of us face on corruption and the challenges thereof. I'm going to now go across to the chairman of our Eastern zone, Mr. Prashant Kanoria. Prashant, would you like to comment on the session and ask a question to Mr. Labh?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I would say the session has been very, very informative, and it has been organized in so beautifully that things could be understood very, very clearly. Well, the question is, we have all the businesses have suffered under the COVID in the last 1 year. So, has the government given any special consideration for the businesses other than what they have offered in the existing category, that is the 500? If you have a 500 crore already loan book, then only you can avail the benefit, that special. Is there anything offered for the first time borrower?
Well, for them, collateral free schemes are there. You can avail that. And as far as if you're talking about the post-COVID scenario, considering the emergence in this COVID second wave or third wave, whatever you call, we can expect more from the government in coming days, because maybe they will expand the base, they will reduce the limit, they will increase the sub limit, whatever. We are expecting it.
So, do you have any kind of representation from the industries to the government for giving some kind of benefit? Because this is a sector which has actually lost a lot during this last 1 year. Suffered the maximum, I would say.
Well, the representations are always made to the government through CII forum. I am a member of Corporate Governance Committee of Bengal Chamber of Commerce also, and there are a lot of representations from MSME regarding this particular problem which you have raised. But it depends that how government is going to address, because nowadays, particularly if you talk as on today, the entire scenario has been changed. Nobody knows about what will happen after the month and how the government will come out after the month. Maybe we all expecting maybe some another sort of package, and the government might be forced to come out with something new.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for one last question. By the way, Jagatji, your point is very good. We'll try and make a list of those exhibitions and shows that are enlisted for benefit from the government, and we'll share it with all the members. I'd like to now invite our the vice chairman of the MEP committee, Surinder Malik ji. Malik sir, would you like to just come in and also offer the vote of thanks to the Labh and for this session, sir? अपने आप को आप unmute कर लें. Malik sir, can you hear us? Okay, I guess there's some audio issue. Any other questions, anyone? We have time. We can squeeze in one last question if anyone has any. Great, excellent. So thank you very much to all our participants for being part of this session. Mr. Labh, we do record these sessions, and these recordings are then shared with so many people who are interested within the membership of IAAPI. IAAPI has a very strong membership base. And as I said, this was really a very, we felt very gripped today in what you shared with us. We felt very inspired, and I am sure all of us will end up saving some money because, and which is very much needed in these trying times as we try and use the benefits that we got here I can see Jagat raising his hand. Jagat, do you want to ask a question?
Hey, thanks a lot, Srikanth. Appreciate it. I had a question. We talked about the fact that after 45 days, we can try and raise a query to the government for the money. there is a Samadhan portal that is available where you register and they kind of act on behalf of the suppliers to get the money from the government. The problem is that 45 days of kind of finding a resolution, we are already in the 11th month of the application and nothing has happened. Is there a way to escalate there in the government hierarchy, and is there anything that you can tell us that can help us?
Are you supplied to the government enterprises, any government sector?
Yes, municipal corporations.
You can take the facility of trades if they have been paneled with the trades. It is a good and excellent platform where you can have the money against your bill.
But sir, this question that Jagat raised is a real question, that we raise a query on Samadhan, and अगर उससे हमारा समाधान नहीं होता है, is there an escalation module? Like for example, हमने raise किया, and by the way, Jagat, I did collect some payments after raising it in Samadhan in a couple of cases. Now, उसके बाद अगर समझो नहीं होता है, which happens in most of the cases, frankly, although the government does pay attention to it, I have to admit that. Is there an escalation system, Mr. Labh?
Well, in legal terms, whatever the option the government has provided, you have to avail only those. If the Samadhan is not providing the Samadhan, then as I said, that the next trades is there. Otherwise, only the legal recourse of action. Because
very well,
it depends upon the spirit also. Even if you say that you will have to pay 3 times the rate of interest which the RBI has stipulated. Instead of 3, you can write 5 times or 7 times. But it depends upon the spirit and the intention of the person to pay. If the person doesn't want to pay, then nevertheless you mention in the ad that you have to pay 7 times. So it will make no sense. So you will have to take legal course of action, whatever the avenues available with you. Trades, as I said, it is a very it's popularizing nowadays. So if you are supplied to any government agencies or to any big corporates, and if that agency or big corporate is empaneled with trade, it is functioning very well. You can get your money from there. Otherwise, you will have to take the legal course of action.
Well, thank you very much, and we'll see what works and where we can get our Samadhan. On that very happy note, wishing you all good health and safety. Thank you very much once again, Mr. Labh, and thank you very much to the IAAPI Secretariat for putting up this show. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.